Ooh, that sounded official, didn't it? All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to one of my first live classes in quite a while, and we'll see how it goes. We'd like to see about returning our classes more and more to live rather than online if we can, because we get to see each other and we get to interact and have relationships as a family here at Hometown. Today, we're going to be looking at the new version of Authentisign. They call it Authentisign 2.0. Now, quick question. How many of you have used Authentisign for some time? And you've used the old version, I would assume, right? Has anyone been brave enough to go use the new one on their own without taking a class on it? And there is a thumbs up also for you folks who are online, and I think you can click on that if you want to answer a positive question. We'll find out. It's not different. Good news. They've just moved things around. Some of you have taken classes with me before, and I know you've heard me say, most of the questions I get to answer for people are not how do I do something as much as where do I find something? Because for the most part, if you know where it is, you can pretty well figure out how to do it, especially if you've done this sort of thing before. So those of you who have used Authentisign, the original version before, mostly you're going to find you're here just to find out where they put the same little pieces. There's not much in the way of differences. And so we're going to walk through getting a listing agreement signed. It'll be simple. This class might not actually be all that long. Some of you are just getting started maybe, and you haven't tried any electronic signatures up till this point. For both groups, I recommend the following. Don't wait until you actually have to send something to somebody to sign in the next 10 minutes to go in and try what we're going to look at today. By then, your client really expects you to know it already, which is the whole point, isn't it? So your homework is going to be after the class today to go in and do a couple of fake documents. If you're using the whole transactions thing in Instinet, then go ahead and create a fake transaction, because there's more than one way to use Authentisign, and you want to know where to use it and how to use it, no matter where you are in the system. But do a couple of fake ones, because if you don't and you call me, I might be at lunch or in Bermuda or something, you know, that's where I'd like to be this morning. And so you need to have that level of familiarity, and that only comes with repetition. You don't get that out of a class. I'm going to show you today how to teach yourself how to use it. And like I said, it's not that hard. So here we are in the MLS. I'm assuming everybody can see my MLS screen and my mouse pointer waving around wildly. And like most things, there's more than one way to do something. There's more than one way to get something. So I'm going to go ahead into Matrix here. You can obviously get into Transaction Desk by going to Transaction Desk right here on the Clarity or CVR MLS desktop. This is where you wind up when you first log in for any of you who are brand new and just getting started. And you can go to Matrix here, into the MLS. You can go to Transaction Desk directly here, although it's my personal theory that most of us are already in the MLS when we're going to do something. We've probably got a listing or tax record or something up on the screen because it has the information that we want. As I've been doing lately in all of our classes, an extra is this right here. This is the member hub. And just remember, this is where you now go to choose, do all of your membership things and that sort of thing. There we go. Right. I'm going to ask all of the folks online to mute themselves for now, because a lot of you are home and we don't want background noise showing up on the recording. But I'm going to go here in the matrix and I'll call up a listing. You got some new listings in the area and a couple of ways to get into Instinet. In addition, I can click on the TD all the way to the right, and remember what that will do. It will take the information from whatever listing is on that line, bring it over into transactions, and actually start creating a new transaction file for you. And in the long run, that's the best way to use Instinet transactions, because we want all of us to start doing as much of our work online where it's accessible from everywhere, rather than completely on paper in a file folder sitting in the back seat of the car that its papers have slipped out of it into other folders, and you now have one folder for all 6 of your transactions. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? You hit the brakes too hard and that's what happens. So I'm going to go up here to links, and I'm going to go to Instinet transaction, and we are specifically going to look at Authentisign 2.0. Now, remember, my screen might look different than yours. And if you are on another computer and trying to follow along, I'll remind you that this main screen is customizable. You have a little lock here in the upper right-hand corner, and you can add things once you unlock it. You can move them around and arrange them however you want them. This is how I like mine, mostly for training purposes, for teaching classes. And the first thing I want to remind you of, because remember, some of you are brand new, so I'm going to go over some of the basics as well, is that there are 3 ways to use Authentisign in transactions. First one is over here. If I open up a hamburger, yeah, that's a hamburger, and there is signings right there. And this allows me to use Authentisign all by itself. I can just open it up, pull something into it. Doesn't even have to be real estate. Anything I need to get signed electronically, I can pull that document into it. I can sign it myself. I can send it to somebody else to sign it. So, Carol, you send something to Judy, right? I can't tell you got the mask on. And you get it as an email attachment, and you just need to get a signature on it. So you go there, or you go here to start signing, and you pull it in and you send it out and get it signed. It's for using Authentisign all by itself. Second way you can use it is inside transactions itself. And these are not my transactions. So hold on a second here. Let me see. If I am, oh, I'm not in as me. I thought I had the sudden urge to go shark fishing. I didn't know where it was coming from. So now you all know. I'm going to switch to being me from being Mike. So that feels better. Pretty cool. And now I'll go back in. So there you go. Nice. So I can open up a transaction here that I've already got, or create a new one. And on the hamburger to the right, there's signings there. And this allows me to create and manage signing sessions, Authentisign sessions, from inside my transaction. And it is particularly useful. We're not going to take a look at it today because I have a separate transactions class. But it keeps track of your stuff. So when you have to add people to your signing session to sign or get copies, if you do it inside the transaction, it offers you a list of all the people that are in that transaction. If you need to select the documents that are part of the signing session, it offers you a list of all the documents and forms that you have, and you can just pull them all in rather than do them one at a time. So that is one of the benefits of using transactions to manage all of your listing files and all of your transaction files. But the third way, and I'm going to go back to the hamburger here in the dashboard, just so we're all on the same screen here. And I'm going to go down here to forms, individual forms. Because I can call up an individual form, listing agreement, for example. I always use them because they're simpler and they have places to put initials. Now I can open up a CVR residential listing agreement standard agency, and I'll do a new one here. There you go, new standalone form. And there is the new unfilled out standard agency listing form. And up here, I have a little blue pen. And this allows me to, after I complete this form, click on the pen and go ahead and send out just this form for signatures. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to do a listing agreement, and I'm just going to kind of fake fill it out here. So firm name is Ocean County Realty. Yes, that was my old firm that my family owned in New Jersey, and I still own the name. So Carol, if you decide to move to New Jersey, I will sell you the name if you want it, okay? Well, all righty. And you fill out all the forms. Remember the tips I've given you before. It's best to tab through the form so that you know where all the blanks go and all the places that need separate information. So for example, it fills it out. Well, actually, I didn't do that right. I should have put the whole address over here. One of the things I've noticed, if you're using Windows 11, which I am, you have to hit the tab key twice for some reason. So some of you have wondered about that. If you've gone to Windows 11, it is kind of odd. So I do like Windows 11, by the way, so it's worked out very well for me. So you fill out the whole form. Once it's all filled out, and let's see, what house are we going to list today? Judy, do you have your own house? All right, so what is your actual name for the purpose of listing your house? Judy, Judith, Julie, I knew it was something else. And it's here. Well, I'm not doing this right. What is wrong with me? There we go. Can't type, it's too cold down here. And address is nice area. I have friends on that. I think that's the street name. I mean, street number. And just so that you can see this once in your life, and by the way, I'm doing this so that you can see how to do the homework. We're going to list your house for $200 million. Isn't that fun? That's how you have fun with this stuff. And all the people watching online here, if you actually sign this, if I send this to you later, they will try to find a buyer for it. Yeah. Isn't that great? Yeah, but that's how you have fun with this. You got to play and have fun with it. And so we're going to assume that we have completely filled this out. You can do some interesting things here, like change colors for the fonts and the letters and stuff. This is still a form, however. And one of the things you want to realize when you use transactions is that you never get to put a form in front of a customer or client. The difference between forms and documents in Instinet transactions is that documents are not fill-outable, forms are. So one of the things you want to realize when I click on that pen, it's going to take this form, which we'll assume is all filled out, and turn it into a document. It's no longer editable. It's no longer fill-outable. So you want to think as you use transactions, the difference between those two things. They're two different steps. Forms are only used to create documents. Documents are what you actually work with your customer and client. And if you make that mental distinction, you'll find using transactions makes a little bit more sense and is a little bit more logical. So any questions about doing forms, filling them out, or any of those kinds of things. Anybody want to unmute and say, yes, I have a question? It's okay if you don't. Nobody does. All right. I'm going to click on the pen. Now, when we click on the pen, the first thing that comes up is the opportunity to use Authentisign Classic and new Authentisign. I'm going to make a huge suggestion to all of you. Stop using Classic. Just don't use it anymore. I don't care how familiar you are with it. I don't care how much of a hurry you are in. If you take a little time this afternoon to play with the new one, you'll be just fine, even if you're in a hurry. Classic will go away. When will it go away? 10 minutes before you really needed to have it. Okay? They haven't got a timeline, but they are watching. And when you get on your computer saying, I got to get this out in the next 5 minutes, that's when they're going to pull the plug. Or at least it's going to feel like that. Okay? So just start using it now. Go to New Authentisign and use it. So click on New Authentisign. And here we are in it. And everything that you're used to doing is here. It's just in a different place. Now, I will tell you, I'm not as familiar with the new one yet as I was with the old one. I mean, I've been teaching on that for what, 8, 10 years now. So I may even have to remind myself where stuff is on here, but it's repetition that makes this work. Now, there's a couple things that are located in different places. There's one thing that has gone away completely because it was never used. So if those of you who have used the old version, you remember there were 4 steps. Basically now there are 3, they've kind of combined them. There's no wizard here. You just go do what you need to do. So this is signing order. If I check signing order, it allows me to select simul-sign or sign in line. Y'all remember that? Simul-sign means everybody gets it at the same time and they can sign it. And quite honestly, that's what you're going to use 99% of the time. The only time you have to use sign in line is when it matters who signs first. And that's not all that common. In fact, there are very few examples I can think of. You have 4 people signing. One person is the head of the group and they insist on being first in everything. And so to accommodate them, you do sign in line. I'm old school. If I had both sides of a transaction, I would use sign in line because I would send it to my buyers first. I would never put a offer in front of my seller that hadn't already been signed by the buyer. But not everybody even does that way anymore. So you just have to think about where and when you're going to use it. Most of the time, you're just going to leave this off and do simul-sign, and it goes to everybody at the same time. So remember, the next step in that process was to add participants, and that's right here. You drop this down, you can add yourself, and I will add myself because I'm the listing agent on this. I'm listing per house for $200 million. Wow. And, you know, one of those a year, I'd have just stayed in the sales side of the business, you know? All right, so I'll add myself. Here I am. Here is my email address. It's already filled out. I'm going to be a remote signer. The one thing that has changed, I want you to notice on this list: remote signer, reviewer, and CC. In-person signing has been removed. It was never used very much by anybody. And if you need to do an in-person signing, you still can. If you sit down with your customer, just send it to your own email, let them go in through your own email and let them sign it that way. It'll be just fine. So remote signer is what you're going to use most of the time, but I want to talk about the next 2 because it's one of the more important things in using Authentisign, whether you're using the new or the old version. Reviewer and CC. Some of you heard me say this before, but I can't emphasize it enough. Who can tell me in the room here, when is a contract a contract? When it's ratified. Boy, that's kicking the can down the road. So let me just ask another question. When is it ratified?
When all parties receive.
When all parties receive. Well, they have to sign it first, of course, yeah. But that's the truth. It's when it's signed and everybody gets their copy, signed, sealed, and delivered on yours. So I will make everybody who has to sign a remote signer. Anybody that I'm authorized to send copies of this paperwork to after it's signed because they need it, I will CC them. Understand, I will almost never, unless absolutely required to, and it'll probably take a shock treatment to make me do it, make someone a reviewer. Because Authentisign does not deliver copies of paperwork until everybody who has something to do in the signing session does it. Makes sense, actually. So if you make someone a reviewer and they don't know they're a reviewer and they get the email and they think it's junk and it's deleted, your documents never get delivered. If they don't know how to do a review and they don't do it, your documents never get delivered. If they don't like you and want to foul up your transaction, you know, one person once said, well, I had one deal where mom was giving them the down payment. The last person I'm going to make a reviewer is mom. I already took mom to dinner. And we went over the paperwork clause by clause, and she's happy with it. So I will CC her, but I am not giving her the power to not let the deal actually be signed at that point. So you see what I'm saying? I will not make somebody a reviewer unless I have to. And if you make somebody a reviewer, make sure they know they're a reviewer. Make sure they know what the email will look like when they receive it. And make sure they actually do the review. Or you, even if everybody has signed it in Authentisign, do not yet have a ratified contract. I think that's very, very important, because I can't tell you how many calls I've gotten where somebody says, everybody signed it, but nobody got the copy. What happened? And the first thing I ask is, did you make somebody a reviewer? Yeah. Did they do it? I don't know. So does that all make sense? I think that's a very important principle to understand in your use of Authentisign, not just write down as an automatic step. So we're going to make me a remote signer, and signing pin, if you wanted to do the, what we used to call the in-person signing, you could add a signing pin here. It's only for when you are meeting with someone in person and they are going to sign through your email. You don't need a signing pin under any other circumstances. So I'm going to save this. Oh, last thing, custom signature, custom initials. These are most often used. Sometimes people specify what they want there, like because they think it matters what it looks like on the page, and it doesn't, and we'll talk about that some more. But it's most often used for things like power of attorney, for executrix, for the estate of, CEO signing on behalf of corporations. Those kinds of designations will fit nicely in there. And then down at the bottom, signature options. Choose signature font, draw signature. You can uncheck these if you want, or just talk to your customer when they get them. I think they are best left unused. Doesn't matter what it looks like. And you do not want to sit with your client for 45 minutes while they try to make the signature they're drawing with their mouse look like their real signature. Am I right? Understand this is electronic signatures. The way it appears on the paper is purely cosmetic and of no consequence whatsoever. Yeah, I meant to do that. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, always recommend signing, adding the role so that everybody knows who they are and what they're doing. And it also helps you organize your signing sessions better. So I'm in there, I'll click on save. And now we need one more participant. You can add a new person from here. You can add from contacts. And by the way, every time you add someone new, you should add them to contacts, because when I sell your house for $200 million, am I going to want to sell you another house and then in 5 years sell that house for you for $200 million? Yeah. So put everybody into your contacts. It's a little checkbox when you add somebody new. I'll click on add new, and we'll do, let's see if I can type your last name this time.
So after every participant you add, you save before you add another.
Yes. And I'm not actually sending this to you, Judy. I am sending it to me. And then right here, I can click on save to my contact list so I can work with this person over and over again. Also going to be a remote signer. I can do the customizing things down here. We'll leave that alone and then click on save. Alrighty. Oops, I must have clicked on the wrong block. Didn't mean to do that. But I got it all. See, I clicked on this. We'll click there. I'm going to add one more person. I know he's attorney, and I've worked with him before, so I'll go to my contacts. You can see how it works, and his name is Dewey Shaftham of Dewey Shaftham and Howe. And yes, that is a lawyer joke. My brother is a lawyer, and I collect them. And the last thing I'm going to do is make Dewey a reviewer, because Dewey charges by the minute for doing that. So I'm going to make him a CC. And he will get a copy of it when everything has been signed. I already have my document here, but I can go over here to Docs, and I can add other documents or go to Forms and add some other forms. They would have to already be filled out and saved. You won't be able to fill them out as part of this process. You have to have them. All you can do is add them. And I can add disclosures or whatever else I might need, unless I was already doing this in a transaction. They would already be there. Under tools, we can add the signings and the initials, and down here we can do markup. So it's all in one place now. It's all under one button on the right-hand side. And what you're doing is you're adding the places for everybody has to sign to where they're going to sign an initial. But let's see what it did for us today. Did it do anything? Not today. Last time I taught this class, it actually plugged some of these places in automatically for me. It likes to do that. And I want to caution you about that. Yeah, especially inside of a transaction. It will try to plug in some of the places for you because it likes you so much. And it wants to be so helpful. But we are still using forms and documents that were initially designed to be signed by people looking at them on paper with a ballpoint pen. It doesn't get all the places right all the time. So be very careful about that. Always scan all the documents to see if it plugged in an extra initial somewhere. You don't want your people initialing something you never intended them to initial and change the paperwork by accident. So I'm just giving you a caution about that. And yes, I did look at you guys online when I said that, even though I can only look like I'm seeing you here. But I want to emphasize how important that is. It always has had that tendency, so be careful. I'm going to put my place in here as the listing agent, which is down here at the bottom. And so a sign here, and I know this is mine because my name appears in this drop down. And then I'll move this over here and look, it gave me two of them this time. Isn't that exciting? So can I Get rid of one of them, yeah. So that's gonna, when I sign this, it's gonna plug the date that I signed it here. And if I wanted to, I could add a time into that as well, but we'll just use the date. I don't have anything to initial yet, but I'm going to. I'll show you how that works. And so now I'm going to just go back up to the top and look it over, make sure I like it so far. And then we'll switch to Judy. And we'll go down here to the bottom again and drag. Oh, it gave me two of my signatures, didn't I? Well, let's get rid of that. It's probably my mouse. And we will drag a sign here down and put it here and put the date over here. But Judy has to initial because this is a listing agreement. That's why I use listing agreement. She talked to me and I told her to say yes to all of the internet display choices because that's the obvious thing to do. And she said, well, you're my real estate agent. I have no idea what you just said, but you have such a trustworthy face. So I'm just going to do what you told me to do. Isn't that wonderful when that happens? And so we'll drag her initials over here. And by the way, this is the area where they sometimes get put in the wrong places or both places occasionally. Just watch for that. And I've also seen a couple appear on the side of the document as well. That's not just Authentisign 2.0. The old one did that a lot too. So, but now Judy here does not like, where is it? Recording is within the property. She wants to listen in. She doesn't want people doing recordings, but she wants to do them herself because she has 27 surveillance cameras in the living room alone. So she said, I want that one to go away. So I'll go down here to Markup and I will click on line and I will draw a line through that. This is how you do the markup. I think it's much easier in the new version than it was in the old version. It's right there on that side panel. She gave me some new wording that's going to go in here. I have no idea what it is. So I'll click on text box and we'll put the text box here and I'll double click on it and just start typing. And it does expand for you. And so you move it around there. And so that's how you make your changes. That's how you do your markup and make your changes. And so since I've made some changes, we're going to need to go back to top. I'm sorry, I had to think about this for a moment. We got all of this. Back to tools and drag an initial over here for Judy. And I don't know, I assume because I'm the listing agent and I'm a signer that I have to initial this as well. So I'll put an initial there for me. And now those initials are in place. So that's how you add your places. That's how you add your signing places, your initials. That's how you do markup. That's how you make changes. That's a whole lot easier to me. Once you get used to where it is, it's all on one button. It's all under one tool. And I think it's simpler. Do a couple of those for fake. Remember that the primary buttons you're going to use are signers, docs, and tools. And you know what? You'll do just fine. You really will. Yes, Judy.
When you did the lines,
Mm-hmm.
then how, I missed how you got to that box to put the text.
Oh, very simple. I had clicked on line to do the lines. So I'll do that again. We need one more line here anyway. And that looked better. Now it looks like a star. And then I clicked on text box and I just clicked wherever I wanted the text box to go. Good question. Any other questions? All righty then. Just a couple of additional things. Layouts. We're not going to look at it. It's more of an advanced feature. But what you can do with it is the places that I just put down, you can preset them on your documents if you want to. And what will happen then is when you call up a document, once you've already added your people, it'll already put the places in for you where you want them. The only thing you got to remember if you do that, though, is you sometimes put those places in other places, like the initials. They may say for some inexplicable reason that they don't want their listing to go out on the internet anywhere. So you have to remember to change them if they're doing something different. And then under options, you have a few additional options that you can use. You can click on these on your own time, but the one that I want to talk about and remind you about is this one. This is the one that matters the most. Signing details, I can change the name of this, and this might be a good thing. I tend to want to name things after who's signing them and what they're signing them for. I would probably have actually called this Rural Point Road dash Pierce dash Initial listing agreement. So when I see it on my list of signing sessions, I know what it refers to, because you can look at all your signing sessions at the same time in Incident from all your different transactions and save that. I know there's supposed to be another I in there, but she'll sign it anyway. She trusts me. And expiration dates, I can make this, if this were an offer, I can make it expire. I tend not to do that. I tend to prefer to leave it somewhat flexible so that when Carol calls and says, I know I only have 20 seconds left to sign this, but I have to run the cat to the vet, I can say, it's all right, take another hour, sign it when you get back, or sign it from the waiting room while they're working on the cat, would be even better. And reminders, same thing. If you don't sign it, it will send you a reminder. I don't use it because if you haven't signed it in the first 20 minutes, I'm already on the phone finding out why you haven't signed it. So the one that matters is this one, Authentisign ID position, the one nobody ever thinks about. What it does is it lets you pick corners. What this is for is when you do a signing session, it gives you this giant security code number. You've seen those before, and if not, when I get this to sign it later, I'll show it to you. And it puts it by default in the top left corner. Those of you who've used Authentisign have seen that. Here's the deal. If you get something that has already been signed by somebody else, some other party in another signing session, and you have to send it to your people to sign, you need to pick a different corner. Why is that important? Because if you don't pick a different corner, those two numbers will be right over each other and no one will be able to read them. And we have had banks and attorneys kick the paperwork back to get it re-signed because they couldn't read those security numbers. And you can send them a certificate with those security numbers on it, but they want to see it on the document. So a rule to remember is if it's already been signed in a previous signing session by the buyer's agent, for example, and you're the listing agent and you're sending it to your seller to get it signed, remember to go here and pick a different corner. There are only 4 corners, so you'll eventually run out if it goes back and forth too many times, but that is important. We have seen that happen. Any questions about that? All right, then I'm going to cancel that. So we have finished setting up our paperwork. Any questions about that? It's the same 4 steps. They're just in different places. And I have found that once I got over the fact that I knew the old one, so I didn't even have to open my eyes to use it, I have found this makes a little more sense, is a little better organized, and a little easier to use. So I'll click on next. Processing. Don't worry about this expiration date. It's a filler. It does make your document expire in a month. You can change it. You can set your reminders here, same as that other button. But for the most part, don't worry about it. It's a filler. They just don't have a way to leave this blank. I asked them about it. I can customize the invites, which means I can open up an email and send a message. I can send it to all of them or to each one. Something like, sign this today. I need to be sure I can feed my kids in 3 months. It's really important, okay? Something personal like that, you know? One of the things you might say, though, seriously, is here are the contracts or the listing agreement, just as we discussed it. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you need help walking through signing that, give me a call. I'll walk you through it over the phone. That's a good message. Would you all agree? Raise your hand if you think that's a good message. Yes, that's a good message. You know what that means? You better have signed a few things yourself from the other side so you can walk them through it. You get constant calls from your clients and customers who do this and have a little difficulty with it. If you've never signed something yourself in here, you won't be able to help them. So you have to go in here and do 3 or 4 or 5 fake ones so that the process, while it doesn't have to be automatic in every single detail, has to be familiar enough that you can imagine what's on their computer screen, on their phone, on their tablet, when they are doing the one thing you established a relationship with them so they would do it, which is sign on the dotted line.
We use the listing agreement. You're supposed to sign it yourself.
Yeah.
As the agent. And so then you get a copy.
Yeah, and you get to
something
sign it.
similar. So you would know that pretty easily, or lead-based paint
Yeah.
where you have to sign that.
That's true.
Or maybe the buyer's agency agreement or something. So there are times when you do have to sign.
Yeah.
And if you don't put yourself on there as one of the remote signers, I've done that before, I had to go back and do it.
Yeah.
But don't forget to make yourself sign.
And one of the nice things about doing it in transactions instead of doing individual forms is it tends to put you in for you. So it's harder to forget if you're doing it in a transaction. But if you don't practice it from the other side of the equation, just like your auto emails, if you don't send yourself some auto emails so you can see what your customer is getting, so you can tell them how to use it, you're not going to be able to answer some questions and you could get embarrassed. But you can customize the email and then click on send. And we have now sent this. It is going out. There is our new transaction. Now, for those of you who are just getting started with 2.0, some of these say add to transaction and some do not. And actually, this is kind of cool. These are ones that didn't quite finish, but I did an individual form, right? I can click here now and either create a transaction for this listing agreement, start a whole new one, or if I already have a transaction set up in Instanet, I can add it to that transaction right from here. The ones that don't have that are probably created in classic version of Authentisign. And so you will start to see both of these on your list initially. Of course, once you switch off completely to 2.0, they'll all be the same. And this,
The little flags, like the little
it's a little different now. I'm going to show you that. It's the same, but they chose different pictures. They forgot this is Richmond and we love our NASCAR. They took the flags away. So this gives you your statuses, just like lightning bolt and the blue ribbon and the gears used to do. Sent, not completed. This would have been a lightning bolt in the old one. Completed, this would have been the blue ribbon that you got. And draft would have been gears you never completed setting it up. And if I click here, I can go in and see the signing session. And again, it looks a little different, but it's the exact same information. So I have my peeps down here at the bottom. And instead of flags, once they do stuff, I'll get a little shield kind of thing here. That means that they got the email, they clicked on the email, and they opened the signing session. And then once they finish signing, instead of a checkered flag, it will have a nice check mark. I liked the flag better, but Not everybody likes NASCAR all over the country. And so from here, it works pretty much the same way as it did before. You can resend it to unsigned participants. If there's somebody calls and they say, I didn't realize I was the email, I thought it was junk email, I deleted it. You can click here and resend it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my email. Nobody pay attention to any of the messages that say I need to buy that medication. I don't know how they know that. So. What I want you to realize is you get constant emails throughout the process. Now, I sent both of these to myself. One that's going to you is actually another version of my own email. And so I'm going to show you how the signing works. We'll click on this one and I'll open it up. And this is the one for me. Hello, John Hicks. Start signing. I know that blue button is hard to spot, but it's right there. And the point I make when I say that is this is designed to go to your people who probably have never done this before. And so they've made it as intuitive and obvious as possible. Click on Start Signing. And they acknowledge two things. Remember, not everybody has to use electronic signatures, but everybody has to agree to the use of electronic signatures. So if you have somebody that not only doesn't want to use them themselves, but doesn't trust them for anyone else, can't do Authentisign on that one. So they're accepting use of electronic signatures here and the use of Authentisign to do the electronic signature. And so then here's my document. I click on the hard to find blue start button, which used to be red, and go to the first initial and click on it, and go to the signature and click on it. Complete signing. Sorry it took so long to do. That's just the fastest they could make it. So now I've signed it as the listing agent. Here is that number I was telling you about. You want to print one of these pages out when you do a signing session and just keep it handy either in your paperwork or on your phone or something. If somebody asks you, are electronic signatures secure? You can show them this number and tell them somebody would have to guess that number to hack into your signing session. Whereas if we do it with a ballpoint pen, any 12-year-old with a color printer can put your signature on pretty much anything they want, and you won't be able to prove you didn't sign it. So yeah, they are secure. So that's the first signature. And let's see if it's updated yet. If I go here, yeah, see, there's the little shield. I opened the email, I clicked on it. There's the approved. I signed it. So now we'll go back to my email. And notice I got a signing updated email. It's letting me know someone signed something. And I'll click on the other email because it's in my inbox. This is for Judy. And we'll open this up and we'll click on Start Signing. Or since we're doing an in-person signing, I'll hand it to you. Start signing. And what I would have done when I set that up, I didn't mention it, I would have CC'd your email when I set that up in the signing session. I accept, start. Now, didn't do this for me because I'm already in here. It knows my preferences. I don't need to see this screen. I leave this on because I want to show it to you. This is what I was telling you about. It doesn't matter what font. It doesn't matter what it looks like. And I do not want to sit in our conference room for 45 minutes with Judy while she tries to make it look like her real signature. Nobody cares. So I am just going to close this, click on the next one. Wait a minute, there's a way to make that go away. I'm not doing this right.
That signature.
What's that? Somebody said something.
Don't you have to click set signature?
Let's find out. Yeah, I guess we do. I told you, I'm not totally familiar with it myself yet. I don't do these every day. Thank you. Click on sign here. Oh, I missed that initial. That's what I did. I clicked on the wrong initial. So they're all signed, except this one. There we go. I'm almost done. And I can print it. I can download it. I can save this. And now if I go back here, I've got everything's updated, completed shows. I am now done. And you know what I think? It wasn't I had to uncompleted signature. I was clicking on the same one again each time. Sorry about that. So that's it. There isn't any more. It's not complicated, and I am finding it for myself. It's easier to use than the old one. It's more logical and rational. And I would really encourage you to just go and start using the new one.
John, I have one question. Do most people CC, like if I'm representing the buyer and they're signing the documents, and do you CC the listing agent so that when everybody is finished signing on my side, it goes back to them?
That's a good thing to do. I recommend using CC for a couple of things. First of all, you obviously can't CC somebody unless you have the participant's permission. And that's an easy mistake to make. So always make sure you have everybody's permission before you CC somebody. I have suggested, and this may come in the future, by the way, she wanted to know about, if you couldn't hear the question, about who and when to CC. I have always wanted this to let me, in a signing session, pick different documents to CC to different people. I might have set up a signing session where there are documents in here that I really only want to go to the buyer when they're done, or the buyer's people, you know, that sort of thing. Doesn't have that ability. So always get permission for whomever you're going to CC. And the people I would CC is the other agent. Then you don't have to send it to them. If it's a contract, you might even have more. You might have a copy go to the mortgage person. You might have a copy go to the title or the closing agent, depending upon where you are in the process. But there is one other person I want to mention to all of you. How many of you, and go ahead and put your hand up now, because even if you weren't going to, it's essential that you put your hand up for this question. How many of you know you have to turn in your paperwork as quickly as possible in the office? So why don't you just CC your agent services coordinator whenever you do this? They won't mind printing it out if you do that. They've all told me they would love you to do that. So there's lots of things that you can use CC for. Yes. Yeah.
Because suppose you need to say, oh, I forgot an initial, I got to do it again. Then
Well, you work that out. Most of the time it's straightforward. And so most of the time it's a good thing to do.
I've never thought about that, because you still have to send your info sheet. You still have to send a copy of the appended.
Well, here's an amazing
MLS.
thought. Can I add to that thought? If you do this in a transaction, how many of you know the hometown info sheet is in transaction desk? And you already filled it out and added it to your transaction. And since it contains information everybody knows, the only problem is it is one of those things where you may not want that to go to everybody. But that's why I asked them if we could someday do that and cut it up a little bit. But you can have it filled out and have it go at the same time.
Well, I use the info sheet now. I see other agents from other companies doing it. They will send me their form of info sheet, not necessarily, you know, with the Authentisign, but I'll get it rather than have me go in and type up an email with all the same information I've already done. I send the info sheet to them.
Right, so what you're realizing is using the CC can help shortcut a lot of that stuff. Yes, absolutely. Any other questions? All righty then, I am going to stop the recording. Please stay on for another minute.